In this video, we are going to talk about what I look for when investing in an NFT project. The idea of the video is to help you build a system for yourself to properly research NFT projects to buy and end up buying better projects more often than not. As usual, nothing in this video is financial advice, so diving right into it, when I evaluate an NFT project, I simply break down the process into three categories. The first category would be product, second category would be team, and third category would be the future. So we're going to talk about these one by one, but I want you to keep in mind that the tried and true method to having success investing in NFTs, at least thus far, is to identify the best projects, buy into them as early as possible, in other words, for as low of a price as possible, and then hold them for the long term. I suppose the added caveat would be to buy multiple so that you're able to de-risk and actually take profits on the way up, because the NFT space can be incredibly volatile even for the best projects. So if we dive into that first category, we're talking about product. NFTs can be a number of different products. They can be an art project by a one-of-one artist. They can be a 10,000-piece generative collectible project that gets traded at a high volume, or they can be a utility token like a VFriends or a Links DAO that offers some sort of access or real-world utility in the future. When you're buying any NFT project, besides buying the asset for yourself as a collectible or something for you to personally keep, what you're doing is you're buying an asset with the hope or the presumption, the speculation, if you will, that the asset will go up in value in the future. So it's really important for you to understand what the product is that you're buying and then to evaluate that product in that sort of category. Let's talk about evaluating a project that's on the art side. For example, something that's by a one-of-one artist or something that is a 10,000-piece or less collectibles project. Big names that come to mind are Deadfellas, Bored Ape Yacht Club, Sartoshi's MFers, among others. When you're evaluating the art for an NFT project, you have to realize that art is incredibly subjective. The Satoshi MFers project is a bunch of stick figures, so at first glance, someone would say that that art isn't good, but if you kind of dig in beneath the surface, you understand that Satoshi is basically a meme artist and that those are actually hand-drawn charcoal drawings that were put into a 10,000-piece generative art collection. So there's a couple of good things going on here. Satoshi, again, well-known memester on Twitter, has a big following. People really appreciate what Satoshi posts, and humor and memes go really far in the NFT space. There's a lot of examples of that. Right off the bat, Rare Pepe's come to mind. But as I'm recording this video, there's a lot of Pixelmon memes happening, and the Pixelmon character Kevin is mooning in every NFT collection that he's in. That's a little bit of a different story because those will realistically all eventually go to zero. But when you look at something like Sartoshi's MFers, you're basically banking that that is going to be culturally relevant. So at first glance, someone might say, you know, you guys are buying stick figures, but once you unpack the story and you unpack the relevance to the NFT space, it becomes a lot clearer why a project like that has value. And I actually would bet that it continues to have value long term. So the moral of the story here is to evaluate the art based on the kind of category that it's in and figure out, does this art work for the NFT space, and could this art lead to people thinking that this project has value long term? It's a subjective and complicated thing to do, but the deeper you get into the NFT space and the more examples that you look at, the better you're going to be able to make the distinction on what's worth buying versus not, and the other factors that we're going to talk about are going to play into that as well. While we continue to talk about the product side, when you look at utility plays like Gary V's VFriends, Gary V's Book Games, Mike Dudis's Links DAO, there's a number of different things that you have to think about. You have to think about the team, and that's the next category that we're going to get into. But when you actually look at the product, you have to understand, what are they looking to do? Is it going to be possible? And what is the fair market value of what they're trying to accomplish? In the case of Gary Vee's VeeFriends, one of the fundamental access utility pieces of the project is the fact that you're able to go to Gary Vee's VeeCon 3 years in a row. So that is direct utility. It is effectively a conference ticket. And the people that were early to VeeFriends knew how much those conference tickets cost for people like Tony Robbins and other conference speakers. So they quickly determined that a half ETH floor price for the VeeFriend was a very, very good price to buy into. Since then, you've seen a lot of price discovery on the project. It's north of 13 ETH, but people are still buying it because they view Gary Vaynerchuk as one of the major players in the NFT space. And there's a general belief that he'll figure out a way to drive enough value to the NFT to continue to have it appreciate in value. Other aspects of the VeeFriend collection give you direct access to Gary, such as being able to FaceTime with him, go to dinner with him, or actually sit courtside at an NBA game with him. All of these things offer different people in the world value, whether or not they offer you value. So you have to think like that and think, who is the audience for this, and how much would somebody else be willing to pay if they see value in this experience? For the Mike Dudas LinksDAO NFT, when you buy that, you're assuming that golf's popularity and a Silicon Valley entrepreneur will be able to attract enough buyers that goes up in value and offers people utility. So when you're looking at product, the moral of the story is to understand who will be potentially buying it, how realistic it is to execute the promises, and whether the team actually has the wherewithal to be able to deliver on what they're promising. Let's move into the second category, which is the team that's executing the project. In the cases that I mentioned already, Gary Vaynerchuk and Mike Dudas, you're betting on proven entrepreneurs and proven entities that understand the NFT space. There are a lot of creators that are coming out right now, whether doxed or undoxed, that have debatable backgrounds when you evaluate them against other people that are in the NFT business already. A big thing that I look at is whether a team is doxed, and by doxed, I mean that they've revealed their actual real-life identities. They put their name, their face, and their reputation on the line, and that inspires me as a buyer because it tells me that they're going to put the work in to make the project succeed, because otherwise it's unrealistic that they'll be able to make a lot of money in the NFT space again. A lot of people are interested in carrying out, rug pulls. In other words, selling out a primary sale and then not putting in the work on the back end to make the project legitimate, considering they've raised a lot of money right there at the beginning, and speculators will often step in to sell out an NFT project. So I want to know that a creator is doxed, so I know that big efforts are going to be put in on an NFT project. The other thing that I tend to look for is whether the person has experience in crypto or Web3 already. One really good example of this is the Doodles project, which is a collaboration by an incredibly talented artist, Burnt Toast, that had already been releasing NFTs as one-of-ones on a platform called Foundation. But more importantly, the business side of the equation, a gentleman named Poopy Cat, who is early to NFTs and early to crypto and had a crystal clear understanding of the space going into it. This combination typically makes for a massive success in the NFT space because of that understanding in this brand new industry that's being pioneered right now. You often see NFT projects that have a really good handle on art sell out initially on the merit of the art, but then if the creator didn't have a Web3 background or a crypto background, there can be some turbulence while they figure out how to make the project have value. If the person is really interested in making NFTs their full-time job and recognizes that NFTs are the most lucrative way for them to monetize their art, you'll typically see them eventually figure it out, whether it's through partnerships or other means to drive value to the NFT and inspire speculators that the value is going to go up in the long term. The last piece for the team side that I wonder is this the creator's full-time job? The reason I say this is because I do think a lot of NFT projects are actually treated as side hustles, and that really doesn't work in the NFT space. You're talking about consistently managing a community and driving value to shareholders, basically, the people that hold your NFT over a prolonged period of time. There's really no way to make it work as a side project. So all of this research is leading to who is the team, Have they disclosed who they really are in real life? Are they working on the project full time? And last but not least, do they have Web3 experience already? The last category I want to talk about is the future category, which is what is coming down the pipe for the project in the future. It's okay if a roadmap doesn't have big promises, but whatever they promise, you want to feel like the team has a grip on what they actually have to do. They understand what they need to do to be successful, and that it's realistic for them to deliver on what they promise. When you look at early projects like a Bored Ape Yacht Club, the team just promised basically another drop, the Mutant Ape Yacht Club drop. They built up a community. The community became passionate. A lot of people made a lot of money, and they put out multiple drops afterwards that also made their holders a lot of money. This is an example of an early project, but it also shows that they didn't have this rocket science level roadmap, but they did execute on what they promised. If you look at a project like Deadfellas, even though there's an anonymous team, they're at this point proven builders in the NFT space. So the only thing that anybody should have been doing at under 1 ETH price tag, for example, during the dips, during the times that Deadfellas didn't have a ton of hype, was really buying the dip on the project. Anybody that sold under 1 ETH before the run up to 5 ETH probably wasn't very happy. I think about projects like Smilesverse as well, which to me were pretty obvious plays if you could have bought them at under a half ETH, for example, that have seen tops at 2.5 ETH, where there's a doxed, passionate creator. He's a young guy, has his finger on the pulse of modern culture, and then a solid team surrounding him of a bunch of people that have their identities revealed. It really did feel like a no-brainer at under 0.2. So there's a lot of different factors you have to keep in mind when you're evaluating a project, but if you boil the whole thing down simply, it's buy the good stuff as early as you can for as cheap as you can, do the research on who the team is and what their plans are to do, hold those NFTs for as long as you can. If you can buy multiple, if you have the bankroll to buy several at the beginning so that you can trim and essentially take profits to de-risk on the way up because you understand how volatile the NFT space is, that's great too. If you enjoyed this content, once again, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate you joining me today.